Thank you so much, young pharmacist. That has been the national anthem. I hope for those of us that are yet to learn how to, recite the national anthem, this will serve us as motivation for us to do more. So, good evening once again, everyone. Tonight we explore a critical health challenge affecting millions: malaria. Although resistance to anti-malarial drugs is on the rise, so is our collective commitment to combating it. Pharmacists play a pivotal play a pivotal role in this battle, from providing preventative care and education to offering innovative treatment solutions. This webinar will shine a spotlight on the significant contributions young pharmacists are making in this fight, and we aim to amplify that role in Nigeria's malaria resistance strategy. And remember, this is an interactive session. Not only will you learn, but you will also have the chance to win 25,000 naira, 15,000 naira, and 10,000 naira cash prizes through our exciting webinar quiz. Plus, stay tuned for the announcement of the Pyramax Reward Impact campaign, where you could win a fully sponsored trip to our upcoming national conference in Kano, Dala 2025. Who is ready? Please let me see your reaction if you are ready, and if you stand a chance to win this mouth-watering and I can't miss Kano conference. So let me see, keep the emojis coming. So now, to officially open this inspiring session, I am pleased to invite pharmacist Linda Nwosu Oluchi, a dedicated public health advocate and the team lead of the PSNYPG Public Health Advocacy Committee, to deliver the welcome address. From Linda, the virtual podium is yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Pharmacist Aminu. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's meeting. I hope you can all hear me. If you can hear me, kindly
Loud and clear.
Kindly drop an emoji. So I will just proceed to welcome everyone. Good evening, our distinguished colleagues. Good evening, our speakers, and also good evening, our passionate young pharmacists here today. On the behalf of the Public Health Advocacy Committee and also in partnership with Pharmacy Symbiosis, I welcome us all to this important webinar themed Strengthening the Frontline in Nigeria's Malaria Resistance Strategy, a pharmacist-led initiative. Today, we gather not as professionals, but as change makers, committed to addressing one of Nigeria's most persistent public health challenges, malaria. So as healthcare providers and as frontliners, we have a powerful role to play in ensuring the rational use of drugs, patient education, and promoting resistance prevention using strategies that work. We are honored to have with us two outstanding speakers in the persons of pharmacist Emmanuel Wachuku and pharmacist Inyobong David from the Pharma Symbiosis Limited, and they will bring insights from their field and will guide us through all the innovative approach that will be taken to control malaria. In the spirit of all the engagement, and I just want us to stay tuned because we have a lot in store for everyone that is present here today, including the quizzes, all that you have to learn. Please stay tuned and participate, okay? Thank you once again for joining. Let's learn, let's share, let's also contribute to strengthening the future of pharmacy practice against the malaria control. Thank you.
Thank you so much, from Linda, for that heartfelt welcome. Your leadership continues to inspire us all, and your commitment to public health advocacy is truly commendable. Next, we are privileged to have with us the national chairman of the PSN Young Pharmacists Group, Pharmacist Tekene George. He has been a driving force for innovation and leadership within our profession, continuously advocating for young pharmacists to take up positions of influence. ably and heavily represented by the National Vice Chairman, Pharmacist Sani Rafa T. Farm Rafa, the floor is yours. Let's welcome him warmly.
Okay, thank you very much, Samonino. I really appreciate this wonderful words of introduction. Please, can you confirm you can hear me from your end?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm Pharmacist Rafa Sani Techu, the National Vice Chairman representing the Chairman PSNYPG. I really want to thank each and every one of you for seeing it an opportunity, and then it's very important for you to be here in this wonderful webinar, which is promised to be very exciting. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this important webinar titled Strengthening the Frontline in Nigeria's Malaria Resistance Strategy, Pharmacist-Led Initiatives. Today, we gather at a critical junction in our beloved professional public health journey. Malaria still remains a persistent threat to millions of Nigerians, and as resistance to anti-malaria drugs continues to grow, so must our collective response, definitely. At the heart of this response are pharmacists. We can't shy away from this. Strategically positioned, highly skilled, and deeply embedded within our communities. This session is more than just a conversation. It's a platform for sharing innovative strategies, practical experiences, and policy insights that empower pharmacists to play a leading role in combating malaria resistance. From accurate diagnosis and rational drug use to community education and surveillance, pharmacies are not just dispensers. We are frontline defenders. I thank you all for your commitment to this course, and I look forward to the robust discussions, knowledge exchange, and actionable solutions that will emerge today. Today, let us reinforce the front lines and move one step closer to a malaria-free Nigeria. I want to especially thank Pharma Symbiosis for all that they've been doing for the partnership and then for keeping up with this relationship that we're having with them. Not just the fact that it's just a relationship, but trying to still enlighten pharmacists and put us in a path to a very good success. So thank you very much, and I wish you the very best of this discussion.
Thank you so much, Pharmacist Rapa Sani T, for those powerful words of wisdom. Pharmacist Rafa know how to, talk. He is a leader. You have beautifully outlined the role that young pharmacists have in shaping not only the present but also the future of public health in Nigeria. Distinguished participants, esteemed guests from Pharma Symbiosis, my leaders from PSNYPG, it is time for a quick pre-test. This brief quiz will gauge the knowledge we have on malaria, its resistant challenges, and the role of pharmacists in overcoming them. So kindly answer the questions in the link to be shared in the chat box. You have just 3 minutes to complete it. Let's see how well prepared you are. So Pharmacist Linda, you can drop the link via the chat box so we can all attempt and test our knowledge to see how far and how much knowledge we have on malaria resistance, and as young pharmacists or as pharmacists, how do we overcome them? So please check the chat box for the link to the pre-test. Thank you so much. Heads up, young pharmacists. The pre-test quiz is officially underway. This is your moment to shine, test your baseline knowledge, and warm up for the main event. Don't overthink it. Just go with your guts and brilliance. It is not about getting everything right. It is about growth, learning, and engagement. And guess what? Those who participate actively from the start will be closely watched. You just might earn extra points of favor to have some advantages over others when it comes to the main webinar quiz. So click the link in the chat now and let's see who is ready to own the spotlight early on. Let the battle of brains begin. Thank you, young pharmacists. Keep the responses coming. I can see only few responses, so keep them coming. 1 more minute, just out of generosity and goodwill. I can see some responses, sorry. All right, distinguished participants, it's time. So let's now dive into the science and strategies behind combating malaria. But before then, I can see Regina Joseph scored 5, RX Top scored 5, Mobology 5, Plifa 5, Ngozi Oko 5, Rebecca 5, Catherine 4, Irobuisi 4, Seke Peace 4, Bumi 4, Ifeyi Anebu 4, Smart 3, Joy 3. So thank you so much, young pharmacists. That's just to test our baseline knowledge about malaria and its strategies. So we appreciate you. Please, a round of applause to all the participants who click on the link. It's not easy to have the courage to do that. So please, let's give them a round of applause as we proceed. All right, so now let's dive into the science and strategies behind combating malaria resistance. Today, we are honored to have a pharmacist well grounded and with a lot of research and information and also words of impartations with respect to malaria resistance and strategies. Our first speaker is pharmacist Emmanuel Inwachuku, a medical science liaison with Pharmasymbiosis Limited. Pharmacist Emmanuel has been at the forefront of research on malaria resistance and plays a key role in data generation and publication of scientific papers. 'Emmanuel, over to you. 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 'Emmanuel, over
I mean, you kindly unmute your mic. Continue talking.
So can you hear me now? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, you're audible now.
All right, I said let's now dive into the science and strategies behind combating malaria resistance. Our first speaker is pharmacist Emmanuel Inwachuku, a medical science liaison with Pharma Symbiosis Limited. Farm Emmanuel has been at the forefront of research on malaria resistance and plays a key role in data generation, resistance monitoring, and pharmaceutical stewardship. I know for some people they will say, we have heard about malaria. Calm down. Let pharmacist Emmanuel walk you through the innovations. With a clapping ovation, with a standing ovation, with any type of ovation possible, let's welcome pharmacist Emmanuel to the virtual podium. Farm Emmanuel, the floor is yours to enlighten us for the next 15 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just trying to turn on my camera for the sake of visual visibility, but I guess the moderator have disabled it from his end. But just to make sure that everybody can hear me, can we all hear me? Good evening, all.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So good evening, the White Pigeon National Chairman, presented by the Vice National Chairman, Francis Tracker. Good evening, the National Executives here present. Good evening, the State Coordinators here present. Protocol observed. My name is Pharmacist Emmanuel Inwachuku, the medical science liaison for Pharma Symbiosis. So very quickly, I'm going to share my screen. Please, I think the moderator has tampered with the settings. I can't share my screen as well. I can't turn on my camera.
I'm the host, Pharmacist Linda. Please allow Pharmacist Emmanuel to share his screen with us. Thank you. Okay, sir, you can go ahead. Pharmacist Emmanuel? Pharmacist Emmanuel, yeah, you can go ahead to share your camera.
Okay, yes, so yes, I can share my camera now. Okay, so let me share my screen for visual representation. So this is how ugly I look. So please manage with me. So let me start sharing my camera on my screen because I understand I don't have much time. Please, if you can see my screen, let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see the screen.
Okay. Thank you very much once again for this opportunity. So we're talking about strengthening the frontline in Nigeria's malaria resistance strategy, pharmacist-led initiative. Before we go into this session, let me quickly do a brief introduction to who we are. So Pharma Symbiosis is an African multinational company that partners both local and indigenous pharma companies to provide world health care solutions within sub-Saharan Africa. And our value is that we are patient focused, we are passionate with what we do, integrity is our watchword, and innovation is something that drives us as a company. So far, so good. Pharmacy is present in 21 sub-Saharan African countries, 21 African countries. This list need to be updated from 1921. Sorry about that. And who are some of our partners? Our partners today, we have various partners, and our partners today, we have AstraZeneca, which are partners with a lot of persons must have known me as an AstraZeneca rep. We do Novartis, but today I'm going to discuss one of the newer innovation for one of our partners called Shinhong Pharma. Let me just turn on my later cursor for. Okay, so we have to discuss this partner in Hong Pharma. That is what I'm here to do. So diving into the topic, in the front line in Nigeria's malaria resistance strategy, pharmacist-led initiative. So what is the introduction? We'll be looking at the body of malaria, the WHO guideline, artemisinin resistant, partial resistant, multiple first-line strategy. What's the role of pharmacy and the call to action? And the objective for us today is that at the end of this session, the participants should be able to understand one, the WHO guidelines for the prevention, control, and eradication of malaria. Two, participants should understand the rising trend of artemisinin partial resistance due to drug pressure and low adherence. Number three, the role of pharmacists in preventing, control, and eradication of malaria. And finally, the multiple first-line strategy or approach when it comes to treating uncomplicated malaria. Just to know if we are all following. At intervals, I will say check, and I would like to get a response back like check. So if I hear that response check, that means you are still with me on the call. You have not lost me. Thank you very much. So what is the global burden of malaria? So as at December 2024, the WHO released their data, and the data was gotten from 2030. It was released at December 2024, and that data was showing what we have on the screen, that we have 263 million cases, 263 million cases of malaria as at the end of 2024. That is actually showing 11 million increase from 2022. If you look at this trend, you are going to see that from the year 2000 down to 2015, there was a decline in the malaria cases present in the whole in the globe, while from 2020 down to 2025 or 2024, there was a peak increase. So the question now called, what is the challenge? What went wrong? So something went wrong for we to have that increase, 11 million increase from 2024 down to 2022. So this problem now is either pharmacists that neglected their duty as frontline agents, or there's no longer political will, or there's no longer patient education for these things. That's why we have that increase. And it's interesting to know that children under 5, usually children under 5 suffers the brunt of malaria-related death. And what is the epidemiology looking like? So in terms of epidemiology, Nigeria, you have 5 countries that is topping the chart. And that 5 countries forms 50% of global malaria cases. Those 5 countries are Nigeria, Congo, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Mozambique. Nigeria, as giant of Africa, leading the chart with approximately 26% of the global burden malaria that we can see in this chart. That's what we call the high-impact, high-burden countries. The high-impact, high-burden countries are 11. There are 11 countries that face high-impact, high-burden, from Nigeria all the way to Cameroon, if you can see this chart very well. But at the end of the day, out of these 11 countries that are high-impact, high-burden, 5 of these countries are topping the chart, from 50% of the global malaria cases. That is what you can see on the screen. And in terms of the malaria-related death, these 5 countries as well is still topping chart. So these 5 countries put together form 55% of the death cases, with Nigeria leading with 30.9% malaria-related deaths. So this is a serious matter. Why am I spending time to talk about epidemiology? I'm spending this time to talk about epidemiology so that you will know the seriousness and the burden of what we are facing, not only in Africa, but in the globe as a people. So, but why is this serious with Nigeria? It's serious with Nigeria because we are at the front in terms of malaria-related cases and in terms of death-related cases. Can anybody still hear me? Okay, thank you. I'm seeing hands up. So we move to the next thing. What is the burden looking like in Nigeria? So we have a map of Nigeria that I'm showing on my screen at the moment, and that map is gotten from the MIS National Malaria Elimination Program. In that map, you are seeing that on the average, there's 22% national average for malaria present in Nigeria. 22% national average. And I'd just like to put out some stats because we have different pharmacists in this house. So you can see that Lagos at the moment, Lagos is having 3% incidence of malaria. And if we go to like River State having 9% incidence of malaria, and Abuja is having 19% incidence of malaria. Across the, when you look north, you see the north, like Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna, you can see the high burden of malaria in that state. So this is a call for action that if you are a young pharmacist present in this call and you are residing in those states that have high burden malaria impact, that means you have a lot of work to do in your hand in terms of patient education, in terms of advocacy to see how we can control and eliminate malaria from our country. So that is the reason why I'm
Pharmacist
showing this.
Emmanuel?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We received some few comments that your voice is echoing and not clear. So I don't know if you can check it from your end.
Okay, my voice is echoing. Okay.
Yes, and it's breaking actually, and we just received some few comments from the participants.
Okay, so let me disable my earpod so that let's know if that is where the challenge is coming.
All right. Thank you for your understanding.
Okay. I've disabled my earpod, so I don't know if you can still hear me.
Okay, now it's loud and clear.
Oh, loud and clear. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll go back to my presentation. Okay, so I'll go back to my present. Okay, so this is where I am, where I was talking about the burden of what we have in Nigeria. So it will interest you to know today as young pharmacists, if you just Google, you can fact check, if you just Google on your phone now, the most deadliest animal in the world. Once you Google the most deadliest animal in the world, you are going to get an answer. And that answer you will get is mosquito. That shows you how serious it is. Just try and Google as we are doing this class, what is the most deadliest animal in the world? The answer you are going to see that will pop up is mosquito. I'm trying to say this so that we can understand that mosquito, which carries plasmodium, which produces or causes malaria, is one of the deadliest animals that kills people, because WHO have asserted that every 4 minutes somebody dies of malaria. Every 4 minutes somebody dies of malaria. That is how serious the case is. And today in Nigeria, just a snapshot of what we're having, that Nigeria is housing 26% of the global burden. There's 95,000 malaria-related deaths as our 2023 report in Nigeria from WHO, that the number of deaths due to malaria is 95,000 deaths. And the challenge is that there is no access to quality artemisinin-based combination therapy, and private sector is the first contact for many patients, and which in private sector we are talking about the pharmacists, we are talking about the patent medicine vendors, PPMV. I will explain that as time goes on. Now, what do we talk about when we talk about the guidelines? What is WHO guideline? The guideline was recently updated in 2023, and there are focus areas of this guideline. Number 1 is the prevention. Number 2 is the diagnosis. Number 3 is case management. Number 4 is drug resistance mitigation. Because of time, I will just say some things very quickly. Now, when you see a patient before you as a pharmacist, as a young pharmacist on this call, what comes to your head first of all? Do you want to quickly go into case management for that patient, or you want to talk about the preventive mechanisms for malaria and the diagnosis? So in terms of preventive mechanism, WHO came up with a guideline in their recent updated WHO guideline, which they start with number one. When you see that patient or the education we are talking about, supposed to be first vector control. And in terms of vector control, what do you use? You use insecticide treated net. So WHO is really advocating, when you see that patient, the first question should not be which anti-malaria molecule should I give. The first question that comes to your mind is that how can I help this patient become better? How can I reduce the frequency of malaria exposure that this patient is having? That is where we talk about preventive measures, and that is where we talk about the vector control. And in terms of vector control, we are talking about the use of insecticide treated net. We are talking about the use of indoor residual spray. We are talking about the use of chemoprophylaxis. And for insecticide treated net, WHO have switched the insecticide treated net, which we all know. Now they are no longer advocating for the use of pteroid only treated net. Initially, what we have 2015, 2017 is the pteroid only treated net. But the advocacy now is that you should tell this patient, you should tell mothers that have kids that they should get pteroid and clofenapryl treated net. These two combination of chemicals together is what makes the new treated net that WHO is pushing, and it is present in most primary healthcare centers because it was deployed across nations and countries, especially the high burden, high impact countries. The next thing which they are talking about here for the patient is the use of indoor residual spray, what we call insecticide. And in fact, as part of the essential medicine list for insecticide by the WHO, you should get an insecticide that has a coverage at least that will last you within the hours of 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. because studies have found out that the female Anopheles mosquito that transmits malaria usually is abundant within the hours of 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. So if you cannot get an insecticide that have that longer coverage into the middle of the night, then the tendency that the patient is going to come down with recurrent malaria cases is high. So you can see in all this discussion or in all this focus area, we have not even talked about the use of medication, because we understand that prevention is top notch. In fact, I will say something here quickly. As of 2017, India was part of the 11 countries that was part of the high burden, high impact nation. But as of 2024, India is no longer part of the high burden, high impact. One, why? Because India really took preventive measures to the extreme, because they virtually all the places in India, there was use of insecticide treated net. And research has shown that the use of insecticide treated net alone is able to control and prevent malaria occurrence by 50%. So you can see that this is not about medication. This is about the preventive measures. Now, the next thing which we are focusing on is diagnosis. And for the diagnosis, we are now doing what we call test and treat. The test and treat nature is now when you see that next patient, for the fact that the patient is having fever, is not enough to institute an anti-malaria molecule. So for the fact the patient is having fever, WHO is advocating for test and treat. And the test and treat is in areas where they cannot use the microscopy test, the thick and blood stain, they can do with malaria rapid diagnostic test kit. So as young pharmacists here present in the house, we should advocate for the use of malaria test kit in our premises. So if you are an owner of a community pharmacist here, always try to see how you can keep some malaria test kits in your outlet so that you can move with the diagnosis before the treatment. Now we move into the case management, which I know we are all eager to hear. But before then, I'll just ask a simple question. And this is the question. How many pharmacists, how many of us here knows the first line ACTs as young pharmacists? If you know the first line ACTs that we have, you can just drop it in the comment, in the chat box. I think the moderators will see it. I'm not seeing because I'm presenting, but just let me give us 30 seconds to do that. Okay. So I believe some answers must have been coming in. So if you know the ACT, just drop on the chat box. So my next slide is going to show us. I think I'm seeing some ACTs. Thank you very much. I'm seeing artemether lumefantrine. I'm seeing artesunate amodiaquine. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. We have brilliant pharmacists in the house. Okay. So next, according to WHO, according to latest guideline, what we have in my screen is the recommendation or recommended first-line treatment for uncomplicated malaria by WHO. Remember, today we are not talking about severe malaria. We are talking about uncomplicated malaria. Now, you can see from my slide, it's written strong recommendation for high certainty evidence. High certainty evidence. Now, WHO has 6 recommendations. Artemether lumefantrine, artesunate amodiaquine, artesunate mefloquine, dihydroartemisinin piperacin, artesunate sulfadoxine pyrimethamine, and in 2022, you have artesunate pyronaridine. In 2022. Now, these are the 6 recommended ACTs by WHO. But on the right side of my screen, you are going to see another thing. Out of these 6, what is being recommended by the National Treatment Guideline of Nigeria, according to the Federal Ministry of Health, National Malaria Elimination Program, 4 of these molecules were adopted, and that 4 is artemether lumefantrine, artesunate amodiaquine, dihydroartemisinin piperacin, and artesunate pyronaridine. These are the 4 that is adopted according to the latest edition of our treatment guideline in 2020. That was the last time our guideline was updated. That was the last time. So it will interest us to know. I don't want to take a sample in the house, but from what I know from the charts I saw, not everybody knew that there's a newer additions or there are newer innovations like artesunate amodiaquine or dihydroartemisinin piperacin. Check, can anybody still hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So next, what is the current landscape of what we are seeing? What we are seeing today in Nigeria, are we using those 4 molecules that have been recommended by WHO and also recommended by the National Treatment Guideline of Nigeria? The answer is no, because with my conversation with doctors, with pharmacists, policymakers across the country, I've noticed that this is the current landscape in our country as of today. A lot of people do artemether lumefantrine and artesunate amodiaquine. That's what a lot of us do. And in fact, there has been gradual limitation of artesunate amodiaquine because of its use in seasonal malaria chemoprophylaxis in some countries, and also in up north. In up north, there have been some limitation for artesunate amodiaquine. And why is it that when you go across all the pharmacy shelves today and across all the hospitals today, what you get majorly is these 2 molecules? The problem comes with information. Because we are not informed, because we are not aware of the newer recommendations, that's why we still have this current landscape. And I would just want to show some papers to that effect. So in order to help solidify what we have been saying, there is a study called the WENECAM study. WENECAM is West African Network for Clinical Trials of Anti-Malaria. And that study is a comparative study between artemether lumefantrine, artesunate amodiaquine versus pyronaridine artesunate and dihydroartemisinin piperacin. So they are comparing these 2 new additions. So let me say something here. Dihydroartemisinin piperacin was introduced in 2015, while pyronaridine artesunate was introduced in 2022. You can see as the day goes by, newer innovation is coming out. So this is a study to compare these drugs to see if these drugs are also efficacious and if they are also safe. And what is the outcome like? This is what the outcome is like. That at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we have at day 28 and at day 42, we have 99.5% success rate when you compare all the 4 drugs, all the 4 molecules. But when you now compare the unadjusted ACPRO, what do I mean by unadjusted ACPRO? The unadjusted ACPRO is when you are taking into cognizance whether this patient is having recrudescence or whether this patient is having relapse. That is the unadjusted ACPRO. And you can see that for artesunate pyronaridine and the hydroartemisinin peraquine, they have better efficacy when you compare their unadjusted ACPRO than that of artemether-lumefantrine and artesunate amodiaquine. Very quickly, what is the safety and tolerability profile? In terms of safety, you can see mild liver increase with artesunate pyronaridine, which spontaneously resolve upon completion of treatment. While for the hydroartemisinin peraquine, you can see elongation of the QTC interval above 60 milliseconds more than the baseline. For artemether-lumefantrine, you can see QTC elongation also, which is above pyronaridine artesunate. And in terms of pediatric study, this is a pediatric study done in Nigeria. So this study was done in Nigeria in the Southwest, University College Hospital, Ibadan. It was comparing artemether-lumefantrine versus pyronaridine artesunate. And the study at the end of the day was showing that pyronaridine artesunate has higher cure rate than artemether-lumefantrine on the 28 and the 42 for the unadjusted ACPRO. And one interesting thing is that there's improved hemoglobin recovery and faster symptom resolution in children when you use pyronaridine artesunate as against artemether-lumefantrine. What am I trying to say here? What is the implication of all this to our practice? The implication of all this to our practice as young pharmacists is that, number one, there's strong evidence that you can now start using pyronaridine artesunate as part of your first line for treatment of uncomplicated malaria. Number two is that it's giving room for what? Diversification of portfolios. That means you no longer have just 2 first lines. You now have 4 first lines. 4 first lines. No longer 2 first lines. Number 3 is that you now have what? There's now retreatment efficacy. What do I mean by retreatment efficacy? When a patient is given a particular anti-malaria molecule and the patient comes down with malaria again, when you retreat that patient with these new innovations, there's high efficacy that the patient is also going to get better than when you do with the older molecules that we have. And then this also helps to support resistance management, and this also helps to support pediatric-friendly doses because of the longer protection that it has. In terms of longer protection, what do I mean by longer protection? When you look at the partner drug of the ACTs, the lumefantrine has a half-life of 3 to 4 days. That is lumefantrine. While pyronaridine have a half-life of 14 to 18 days. Amodiaquine have a half-life of 8 to 10 days. So you can see the longer the half-life of the drug, the better the longer protection that drug can offer you. So the short half-life of lumefantrine, 3 to 4 days, cannot offer you longer protection for artemether-lumefantrine. But when you use a drug like pyronaridine that have a longer half-life of 14 to 18 days, you have better, longer protection for your patient. And I will just ask a simple question again. What do we understand as pharmacists by artemisinin resistance? We have been shouting resistance, resistance. I'm almost rounding up. Resistance, resistance, resistance. What do we understand? You can drop that on the comment box for those of us that are still listening. What do we understand by resistance? Resistance, is it when a drug fails, or is it when the patient comes back? Very simple. Let's just look at it. When we talk about resistance for anti-malaria, what are we considering? We are considering the PF-KELCH13. What is PF-KELCH13? Plasmodium falciparum KELCH13 mutation in at least 5% cases. So when you have a pool of patients, if 5% cases of that patient are coming back or are showing treatment failure to the Plasmodium falciparum KELCH13 mutation on the biological marker, 5% of them, then there's actually partial resistance setting in. And if there is a delayed parasite clearance at day 3, every anti-malaria lasts for 3 days. So if the patient are taken at day 1, day 2, day 3, and if there's a delayed parasite clearance at day 3 for that patient, then it means that partial artemisinin resistance is setting in. And these have been shown, or these have been seen in some African countries like Cambodia. Well, first of all, seen in Cambodia, and we are seeing a high increase in Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, and Nigeria. Yes, you may say Nigeria was not mentioned here, but the truth is that as young pharmacists, we have been seeing the rise of resistance in our country as Nigeria. But the problem is that we lack data. That is the challenge for us as Nigerians. And this is actually a map from WHO that is showing the treatment. That I put a link. You can actually use this link to assess this thing. So this is not my making. This is actually what was done and published on WHO. This is the link. You can assess this threat map. This threat map is showing treatment failures across Africa at metallumenfantrine, treatment failure for dihydroartemisinin pifedacin, and you can see for artesunate pyronidine, there are just few cases of treatment failure. But when you look at Nigeria as a whole, this is my point as showing Nigeria, there is no treatment failure that is in Nigeria at the moment when you use artesunate pyronidine. But when you narrow it to Nigeria, this is the map of Nigeria, you could see treatment failure for artemethyl-lumefantrine, dihydroartemisinin have been seen in some cases, and artesunate and modafinil have also been seen in some cases. So what are we thinking now? Our role as pharmacists to help combat this resistance, that's what we are talking about. What's the strategy? For WHO, the strategy is to ensure what? Drug efficacy and what? Rotational strategies. If you must fight resistance, you must talk about drug efficacy and you must talk about rotational strategy. And why are we talking about drug efficacy and rotational strategy? Because we want to delay the resistance and prolong the lifespan of the ACT we have on the shelf. The lifespan of ACT we have on the shelf is crucial. We have to prolong it, and we need to talk about efficacy. I don't know, in February 27th of February 2025, NAFDAC published something on their website when they discontinued the use of dry powder of artemethyl-lumefantrine. They discontinued the use of dry powder of artemethyl-lumefantrine owing to the issues of stability upon reconstitution for 3 days. Now, there's what we call WHO threshold for efficacy or for effectiveness. WHO threshold for effectiveness is benched at 90%. And it has found out that upon reconstitution of dry powder of artemethyl-lumefantrine and allowed to stay for 3 days, there is drop in efficacy, and NAFDAC and WHO have to discontinue it. So to help fight resistance, as pharmacists, we should think, one, drug efficacy. Number two, we should think rotational strategy. I will also drop again on the chat box, what do you understand by multiple first-line approach? What do you understand by multiple first-line approach? You can drop that on the chat box. I don't have time again. I'm rounding up. For multiple first-line approach, how do we define it? How does WHO define it? WHO defines multiple first-line approach as the use of 2 or more artemisinin-based combination therapy simultaneously or in rotation. You can use 2 ACTs simultaneously. That means for you to combat resistance, there is a strategy that has been deployed. And that strategy is called the multiple first-line strategy, where you can give the patient artemethyl-lumefantrine together with artesunate amodiaquine. Or you can give the patient artesunate pyronidine together with artemethyl-lumefantrine. Simultaneous deployment. That's the strategy. Simultaneous deployment. When you use 2 or more effective ACTs, you can use them simultaneously or you can use them in rotation. So I will tell us today for free that now there's an ongoing research going on because we have understand from WHO's point of view, from the different malaria elimination program, rollback malaria program, global fund medicine for malaria ventures that we are having, we are seeing that there is gradual increase or there's gradual rise of resistance, and patients cannot comply to giving them multiple dosings. So the ongoing research that is going on is a research that is bringing out 3 molecules together: artemether, artesunate, and lumefantrine. So in the next 5 years to 7 years, you are going to start seeing a new anti-malaria that is going to have 3 molecules together: artemether, artesunate, and lumefantrine. So the whole essence of this multiple first line, we are trying to protect the lumenfantrine molecule is crucial. The lumenfantrine molecule is crucial. We are trying to protect it. And for we to protect it, we need to expose the Plasmodium falciparum to multiple ACTs, or we do a rotational strategy. And this rotational strategy can be done either every 2 years or every 1 year. What does it tell us as pharmacists? When you see that next patient in your presence at the pharmacy, reduce the pressure on artemether-lumenfantrine, reduce the pressure on artesunate amodiaquine. Start thinking of the newer innovations. What are those newer innovations? Those drugs that came in 2015, those drugs that came in 2022, especially those drugs that came in 2022 are your newer innovations. And for the implementation in Africa, in fact, the pilot study have been done in different countries for multiple first line. There's the pilot study in Nigeria, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. So the pilot study for Nigeria was actually deployed for seasonal malaria chemo prevention. And it has shown that the multiple first line approach has been doing very well in combating the resistance, especially up north, where we have 48%, 30% for our people. And what are the evidence supporting this? There's a mathematical model supporting this, that if you give 2 or more ACTs to that patient, you are going to reduce the issue of resistance of that patient by this percentage. And when you give 3, you reduce by this percentage. So why are we trying to reduce this risk? Because the Plasmodium falciparum molecule find out that it has, I'm getting a feedback. Can we still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there has been, I'm getting a feedback. I think somebody's. Okay, thank you. So we have seen actually a resistant marker of that biological molecule to the piperaquine molecule. So if you remember, they have been deploying the amodiaquine for seasonal malaria chemoprophylaxis in Nigeria, especially up north. So, and there's this resistance class, issue of resistance, that is a class resistance that is happening with the piperaquines, the amodiaquines and the piperaquine. So I'm making bold here to say today that the piperaquine is a very good molecule. Piperaquine is a very good molecule, but the challenge we are having now is the class resistance gradually setting in with piperaquine. So we are also trying to prevent these things. So we say that in adopting multiple first line approach, ensure you start including newer molecules as part of your treatment as pharmacists that are present here today. And for the global technical strategy by WHO alongside rollback malaria program, they are saying that by 2030, we want to ensure that we reduce malaria by 90%. By 2030, the mortality rate of malaria should reduce by 20%. And also, what is the strategy? That pharmacists and other healthcare professionals should use newer innovations as part of diversification strategy. And what is that strategy again? The pharmacists are pivotal in advocating for policy and education in malaria control and elimination. So today, I talked about Lagos having 3% malaria case. So sometime in February 2025, yes. So the Minister of Health, Professor Ali Pate, came to Lagos with alongside with the Minister of Health in Lagos and the Governor of Lagos, and they launched a program in Lagos called the Impact Program. So that Impact Program was trying to take into cognizance, trying to recruit community pharmacists and patent medicine vendors into the malaria plan for Lagos, because the Ministry of Health, the Department of Malaria Elimination Program, have seen that the patient, the first point of call for patients is either the patent medicine vendors or the community pharmacists, especially in areas where there's no access to primary health care centers. So in areas where there's no access to primary health care centers, when a patient is coming down with malaria, the first place the patient goes to is the patent medicine store or the pharmacy. So gradually you start seeing a lot of patent medicine dealers being recruited as part of data collection for NMEP to help track data. So I will ask one question. Are we going to be here as pharmacists to see that patent medicine vendors are not doing the job we are supposed to do as pharmacists? That's a food for thought. It's a question we should take. What is the role of community pharmacists? Check, let me just know if you are hearing me. I'm done. What's the role for community pharmacists in this role? Number one is that we are the frontline access to patients when it comes to malaria. Our role as pharmacists is to educate the patient, educate patients on what they need to do, educate them on prevention, educate them on chemoprophylaxis, how they can use seasonal malaria chemoprophylaxis. Always advise your patient to do every 3 months sulfadoxine-pyrimethamine. It helps. Always tell your patient to do 3 months sulfadoxine-pyrimethamine. They are not coming down with malaria, but 3 months interval or 6 months interval, let them take an SP. Also for pregnant women, the intermittent prevention treatment of malaria, tell them to do that. The multiple drug access, where the multiple first line come into play, educate your patient on this thing. Surveillance is key for us as pharmacists. We need to track what? Resistance patterns. And as pharmacists, mentioning of drug quality, we need to monitor drug quality, we need to monitor correct dosing, and we need to monitor adherence. So the trend to which anti-malaria is going, even the newer innovation that's about coming out, which I talked about, is going to base on once daily dosing. So the reason why we have been having a lot of resistance to anti-malaria is because of the issue of dosing. Take one now, take one in the next 8 hours. We are trying to reduce that issue of take one now, take one in the next 8 hours. So dosing is a key factor to help reduce resistance as one of the drivers of resistance, because when there's accurate dosing, there's actually adherence to compliance. And pharmacists should help to detect treatment failure and support pharmacovigilance. Detect treatment failure, support pharmacovigilance. How do you help for pharmacovigilance monitoring? You have to monitor for adverse drug reactions. So it's our duty as pharmacists to monitor for adverse drug reaction, to identify poor quality and counterfeit ACTs. You have 1,001 brands of different AL on the shelf today. AL is still good as a molecule, but because of a whole lot of counterfeit medicines we are having. During the raid in Onitsha, Aba, and Idumota, Professor Mojesola, the NAFDAC DG, came up with a publication that they saw about, 400 or 4,000 brands of different ACTs. So imagine 4,000 brands of different artemethyl-lumefantrine molecules on the shelf. The anti-malaria AL is now more than the number of people suffering the disease. Just on a side note, as a joke. But what am I trying to say? There is a lot of AL pressure. There's pressure on AL. So pharmacists here present, let's try to reduce that pressure on AL, and let's start to think of diversification, adoption of newer molecules, multiple first-line portfolios. That is what we have. And finally, as a case scenario for discussion among ourselves, we have a child who is brought to the pharmacy with recurring fever and past AL treatment. So for us as pharmacists, what are the alternative ACTs we are going to recommend for that patient, knowing that we now have different first line? What are the alternatives you are going to recommend to that patient? And what is the counseling you are going to offer for that caregiver? Will you just jump straight to case management, or you want to start from prevention and patient education for that patient? And will you report this case as a treatment failure or a potential treatment failure? Thank you very much. Let us start including multiple first-line approach in our pharmacies, and let's see how we can partner with the medical science licensing of different pharma companies to collaborate in policy advocacy, and let's see how we can go for data generation. Stewardship is key, and we have to take ownership of our patients when we see them and ensure treatment equity. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to young pharmacists. I'm not taking it for granted. I'm available to take any questions, and God bless all of us. So what I will tell us here today, for whatever we are going to do, this information you have had, there's 65% chance that you are going to implement this information if you, as you are hearing it and you put it in practice within the first 24 hours. There's 67% chance that you are going to use it. But if you allow it to extend to 48 hours, there's 88% chance that you are not going to use the information. And if you allow it to stay more than 48 hours, there's 98% chance that you will not use the information. So the earlier you use it, the better for you. Those who know rule over those who don't know. Take ownership of your practice. God bless us. Let's join hands and eradicate malaria. So thank you, pharmacist. I'm done. Any question, I'm open to answer.
Wow, this is interesting. Thank you. Okay. I can see some hands raised, so please I will address that. Thank you, Pharmacist Emmanuel, for that, let me say, comprehensive and enlightening presentation. The crucial role pharmacists play in gathering data, monitoring resistance, and implementing effective treatment strategies has never been clearer, sir. So thank you so much once again, and we do hope that at the end of the session, young pharmacists will have the slide and will have the opportunity to connect with you when the need arises. And we do hope that you will open your doors to young pharmacists, sir.
Thank you very much. So no problem. The slide will be made available, and I'll be here to take questions as well, maybe after the session.
All right, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us. Before we move on, I would like to ask for your thoughts. I would like to ask for your thoughts. Let's make this interactive. We're going to have a teaser engagement for the next 2 minutes. In the chat box, please type your answer to the prompt. We're going to share a screen which will have the prompt, and then you take a moment, share your thoughts, and let's see what everyone is thinking. So, Pharmacist Linda, please share the screen. And for those of us that are raising our hands, we'll do that. We'll address all your engagements in the chat box, or you can actually wait when it is time for Q&A session. Then we can, I can see 7 hands, so please let's take this teaser engagement, after which we're going to give room for young pharmacists to ask and to share their opinions, and then engage with us. So please check the chat box for the teaser.
Hello, Pharmacist Joy. Please, if you are here, kindly share your screen. Thank you.
While Pharmacist Joy shares our screen, distinguished young pharmacists, heads up. It's just a reminder that the main quiz is coming immediately after the presentations. So it is not just any quiz, it is a cash loaded showdown. 25,000 naira, 15,000 naira, 10,000 naira. Stay sharp, take notes, and be ready. Your data and airtime won't win you this, only your attention will. So we are not just learning, we are rewarding impact. If you have been listening, this is your golden chance to win big. Cash prizes for top 3 winners, sponsored by our amazing partners at Fiber Symbiotics and Pyramax. So stick around, engage, win, and that's simple. Thank you so much for staying with us, and we do hope that you will enjoy your today's with us. So, Pharmacist Joy. Okay. Mrs. Joy, not is this the slide? Please slide for the teaser. Pharmacist Joy, we can't see your screen. Okay, now we can see. So, young pharmacists, okay. Let's see. Keep the comments coming. Interesting. Please take a moment, share your thought. Let's see what everyone is thinking. The chat box is still open. The chat box is still open. I can see 138 participants. We can do more. 30 more seconds to go. I can see mosquito, insecticide. Let me see who got all the three. Sharp. Let me see who got all the three. Young pharmacists, we can do better. Our pharmacy school training, we can do better. Mosquito insecticides. Insecticides. Interesting. Mosquito insecticides. Granules. Congratulations, pharmacist Daniel. The first to got it right. Pharmacist Daniel, you got it right. It's supposed to be mosquito, granules, and then insecticides. So thank you for your powerful reflections. Keep the ideas coming as we continue. Remember, the value of this webinar lies in the exchange of ideas. And don't forget, the quiz prizes are coming up soon. So stay sharp. So thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, keep the comment section. So now here is an exciting opportunity for you all to be recognized for your contributions in the fight against malaria, the Pyramax Reward Impact Campaign. This campaign is all about celebrating young pharmacists who are making a tangible impact in their communities, whether you are providing malaria care at your pharmacy, leading outreach programs, or sharing knowledge on social media. We want to hear your story. The top prize is an all-expense paid trip to the PSN YPG National Conference in Kano. Runners-up will receive free accommodation and conference registration. All you need to do is to submit a 1-minute creative video showcasing your contributions to the fight against malaria. Does it have to be your picture or otherwise, or your camera? You can use your photos, animations, infographics, whatever best highlights your impact. So submit your entry today. And great news, guess what? The deadline has been extended to June 21st. So you have got more time to get creative and submit your entries. Let's showcase your efforts, and together we can make bigger impacts. So please submit your entries today. This is out of goodwill and generosity of the PSN YPG leadership to extend the deadline. We have received outstanding submissions, and we want your own to count. So thank you so much, and we look forward to